All right, looks like we have everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lucas Grandado. I am the technical support specialist over here at iTherapy Docs, and welcome to another weekly webinar. This week we will be covering the Comprehensive Incident Management System, or we like to call it the CIM for short. This is a fairly new feature. A lot of people haven't been using it just yet, but it is there for your use if you decide to start using it. This system is designed to essentially capture all of the incidents, either internal or A&Es within your agency, and allow you to record them, track them, submit them to the state, whatever needs to be done with them. This system allows you to do. So today I'm going to be walking you through how to set up this system if you've never set it up before. So we'll cover the initial implementation of the CIM, and then we'll go over how to actually use it and how to train your staff to use it. So without further ado, we'll jump into one of our demo sites and we'll take a look at the CIM. So the first thing to do to set up the CIM is come into your advanced settings. And as admins, you're very familiar with the advanced settings. But there are several categories you may not recognize, and they all start with the CIM, Comprehensive Incident Management, or CIM acronym. And these are essentially the databases for your system that the staff will pull from when they're creating their incident documentation. So the first thing to set up is the incident type. And the system makes a differentiation between A&E and general incidents. Anytime you see incident here, this is going to be a general incident. Anytime you see A&E, obviously that's the A&E. And the difference between the two is the A&E requires a safety plan to be put in place as well. So when creating a general incident, the staff is not going to be required to create a safety plan, but they are going to be able to enter all of the details of that incident. And you can add as many of these categories as you'd like by using the Add Incident Type button up here. And it'll just ask you for a name and a description. Reportable, this switch means it'll be printed out in your agency reports. If not, if you don't want it to be reportable, you just leave this switch off. And that's all there is for the general incident types. It's just a name, a brief description if you want to add it, and then whether or not it's reportable. You can always get back to your incident types by clicking this button here. And we have a few in our demo already. Things like an ER visit if the client needed to go to the hospital for any reason, an injury, physical aggression, stealing are just a few examples of general incidents. There are many, many more, and they may be specific to your agency. So you feel free to add as many of these as you would like. The next step to setting these up is defining your A&E types. Now this is the same thing as setting up your incident types, except these are the big three, essentially the abuse, neglect, exploitation. Anything that needs to have a safety plan put in action would go under the A&E types. And obviously we have several others here: environmental hazard, death, etc. Again, you say add A&E type and you can add as many of these categories as you want. It's going to ask for a name and a description. You'll notice the reportable switch is not there because the A&Es we assume are automatically reportable. Again, you can return to the A&E types list by selecting this button here. And again, we have some demo info in here. The next step, so basically you just go down this line. Incident type, A&E type. Now the next step is the A&E category. And this adds a little more definition to the A&E types. So as you can see, each name of the category has an A&E type that it is associated with, whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, etc. You can add as many categories as you need to. And you'll be asked to name your category, then select the A&E type, and these are defined in the step before this. and then again, add a brief description if necessary. So that's the A&E categories. The next step in here, we're just continuing down our line under the advanced settings, is the CIM resolution status. And these are used when you close an incident out, you add a resolution status to it. Whether that be it was substantiated means it went through the whole process, not substantiated, closed without authority, or closed at intake. And you may have more that you need to add, and you can add as many of these as you'd wish. Okay, so that's the resolution status. The last piece of the initial setup is the time scheduler. Now the time scheduler, oftentimes you'll want incidents and especially A&Es to be dealt with in a timely manner, and the system is set up to send you notifications and keep you apprised of when these things happen. So these are the statuses of the incidents that the staff enter. There's in progress, reviewed, submitted, and approved, and each one basically defines you're putting in a number of hours before it has to be pushed to the next status. Otherwise, you'll get a notification, and then you can follow up with the staff that created the incident. So what this is saying is, after an incident has been created, you only want to leave it in progress for 2 hours. After it has been reviewed, it only has 24 hours to become approved, and so on and so forth. You can edit these or alter these at any point by just simply selecting an incident status. Again, this is the status that the incident is in after it's been created, reviewed, submitted, approved. And then you input the number of hours you wish it to be in that status. And again, this allows you to keep track of when the incident was submitted and how long you have as an agency to push it along to the next step. And this will allow your managers and your staff to stay in communication and keep up to date on when these incidents were input. The last step in here is under questions management. And again, many of you are already familiar with the questions management. This is the same place you set up your questionnaires for your notes and for your general documentation. And we'll just jump in here. And these are the questionnaires that are input. But one thing you will notice is there are new domain names for these questionnaires. So if we come in to edit this, we have an A&E form already in place. We come in to edit this, you'll see the domain here for the questionnaire. It says A&E incident documentation. What this means is this questionnaire is going to show up when a staff creates an A&E. And you'll see two others in here as safety plan and incident documentation. And you can, again, you can name these plans whatever you want, but this domain has to remain the safety plan documentation for the safety plan. And we only allow one slot for each of these, so that means your safety plan is going to be the same across the board. You can ask different questions in it, but when a staff is creating a safety plan after they've created an A&E, they will see the same documentation. So again, this domain name is important because this is what tells the system to put this questionnaire under the safety plan versus the A&E versus the general incident. And again, you can name them whatever you'd like, and you just set them up like you do your normal questionnaires for your note documentation. So we can just take a look here at the A&E form. And we have a very simple one in place. Again, this is just a demo site. So you can make these as complex or as simple as you'd like, as long as you're capturing all of the necessary information. But you see we have please describe what occurred during the incident and was law enforcement involved. Again, just giving you some general ideas on the type of things you can put in here. So after you've set up your questionnaires and you've gone through this list in the advanced settings to set up all of your CIM incident types, A&E types, categories, the next step is to actually start documenting on your incidents when they occur. And feel free to test these out. You can delete them out of your system and it's not going to cause any problems. So do be sure to test these out and make sure they're functioning like you want them to, and make sure your questionnaires look the way you want them to before you actually start implementing this across your agency. And that'll save you some headaches when the staff come and ask you questions about how to set up and actually use the CIM. So if you're documenting on an incident, the place to navigate to is not create note. It is actually under agency management, and there's this drop down here, and you'll see all of the incidents down here at the bottom. So there is the incident list, and the incident list looks just like your note list. You're going to see a list of all of the incidents, who created them, the client, the date and time, the category, status, whether or not it's reportable, and then over here are all the actions you can do for each of these incidents. And again, you have the filters up at the top, so you can look for specific staff, you can look for clients, you can search in a date range. And again, this is all exportable to Excel, so you can take it into Excel and even slice and dice it further if you choose. So to create a general incident, you simply click Create General Incident, and it brings up the incident page. Now, this page is simply a form for the staff to fill out. The top of this page is just going to be general information. It'll ask for incident types, and you can add multiple in here if it was multiple items in a specific incident. Then you're going to select the client. So we'll say there was an ER visit for James Bond, and we'll say it was today at noon. Then you'll add a location, a witness, if applicable. It's not required. Again, this red asterisk means it's required. So we'll put in a location. We'll just say he went to press. A witness, and then a description. Again, the witness and description are not required. They're simply there in case the staff has more information to add. And then down here, just like the notes, there's the questionnaire that you've created. Again, these are very simple because it's a demo site, but you can make these as complex or as simple as you need to, as long as you're capturing all of the necessary documentation for your system. And then all you would have to do, once we input some info in here, again, it's going to be more detailed than this, but for test purposes, we're just going to move this along. And then all the staff has to do is select Save. It takes them to review the incident if necessary. They can add comments if you allow them to do so. Again, that's doable in the roles for the specific staff. And up here, because I'm an admin, I see several items that the staff wouldn't see, but they won't be able to review or close their own incidents. So once they've completed that, their job, the staff's job, is done. And then it goes on to the manager, and then probably the incident coordinator for your agency, or an admin. Whatever your chain of command looks like, it'll push it along through that. And what the managers need to do after this is come into the incident list again. And you'll see here's the one we just created. And then they would select, I'm going to review this incident. And marking it as reviewed, you input your comments, if any, and then you just say save. And it pushes it along to a reviewed status. For a general incident, it simply goes submitted, reviewed, done. And that's typically the workflow we found in most agencies. After that, you can close out the incident. So I'm going to choose, as an admin, I'm going to choose to close this incident out. Again, you put in your closing comments if you have any. Select a resolution status, and then just say save. And now this is closed, so I can only view, delete, and print this incident. Staff, again, will only be able to view this incident. You can give them permission to print if you so choose, but admins and probably incident coordinators are going to be the only ones with the delete option to get rid of these. So that is the general incident. Let's go look at an A&E. So to create an A&E incident, it's the same general principle with a few extra steps. Again, you'll recognize this. This is what we just put in. We'll say this was verbal abuse. Again, we'll select our James Bond. Date and time again. Location was in the home, witness, and description. Now, there's going to be two tabs under here for the staff to fill out. There's the A&E form. Again, these are created in your questions management section. And we'll just put in some test info in here. And then there is the safety plan. And this is the difference between the general incident and the A&E is the safety plan. So the safety plan, again, this is very simple documentation. You can make these much more complex if you choose to, as long as you're capturing all the information required. Now you'll notice that there's two buttons down here instead of just the save button. There's save and submit. If they save it, if they haven't completed the safety plan or their documentation, they can simply save it and come back to it later. If they're trying to do things in a hurry while also implementing a safety plan while communicating with the appropriate authorities, et cetera, it can get very confusing to try to do this all at once. So they can just save it. It leaves it in progress and allows the manager to follow up, and it allows them to come back to it and edit this. Save and submit will push it instantly to the manager to review. So again, the status process for these incidents, for the A&E specifically, goes in progress, submitted, reviewed, approved, closed. And that's the workflow that these are going to follow. So we'll just save and submit this. And as you can see, you'll again get a review of what you just input, add comments if you allow them to. And again, they'll see back to list and print or print safety plan. So they'll be able to print out the safety plan and give it to the appropriate individuals, or just print the whole thing for themselves. You can also jump into the safety plan from here and review the safety plan and edit it if necessary. And then we'll jump back into the incident list. So this is what, again, the manager is going to see that Art Admin submitted an A&E at this time. They can jump into the safety plan, or they can mark it as reviewed. And again, once everything has been completed and everybody's comfortable with the documentation that's in the system, you can mark it as reviewed, put in your comments, and save it. That pushes it along to reviewed, and then your incident coordinator or an admin will review all of the documentation that was input and then simply approve it. I just want to show you what the view looks like. Again, it's just the same picture that the staff get when they submit their incident. It's just going to show you a review of everything. And here's all the necessary information is at the top. It has the review comments in here once they've been input. And it hasn't been approved yet, so you don't see an approval date, an approval comment, or closure date, close comment, because it hasn't been closed. But once an incident has gone through the whole workflow, it will show all the necessary information up here. So let's go back to the list. And the next thing to keep in mind, and something to give your incident coordinators and possibly your managers access to, is the incident time scheduler. And this, again, is just going to be a list of your incidents, and based off of do you remember we put in the time schedules down here in the advanced settings? Based off of your time schedules, it's going to show you that we have 2 days. This has been reviewed. We have 2 days to mark it as approved. And then it'll start sending notifications and reminders to managers and incident coordinators that this incident has been sitting out too long and it needs to be reviewed. As you can see, our demo site, we've had these sitting out here for a while, 2,000 hours. So obviously the time for the status change has passed, and these will show up in red. And you can click on View here to pull up the incident and mark it as approved if you have the permissions to do so. So that is how to implement and utilize your comprehensive incident management system. Um, Again, we covered everything under the advanced settings, the incident types, A&E types, categories, resolution statuses, and time scheduler. We also reviewed how to input your questionnaires for your safety plan for your A&E incidents and for your general incidents. And then we reviewed everything under agency management, the incident list, creating A&Es and general incidents, as well as the time scheduler. So that is everything I have for you today. There is a Q&A section if you have any questions. Also feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions that you feel you would like to discuss. If not, good luck on setting up your incident management system. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. There is also the in-depth help me's on how to utilize and how to implement all of these. So that is all I have for you today. Have a great afternoon and a great weekend. Thank you.